by the way? Good, good, good. So, as some of you might have seen from my email, this is my last ever talk as an operational CEO. What I mean by operational CEO is that I'm not actually going to be working day to day running the business. Doesn't mean I'm going to be absent wholly, but very much on a day-to-day basis, the team will run it. So in a way, when I decided to do this talk, I felt liberated to say what I really want to say. The shackles are off, if you like, but with compassion. And so I want to talk tonight about this concept called mastery, but also success. And they're different things, but I think they're related. And so as we go through this next hour and a half, I want to engage in what I think mastery might be for me, what it might be for you, and how does it relate to success, and what are you going to do with it? As always with my talks, I don't claim in any way to have truth. Indeed, sometimes I don't think I've got any wisdom, but I have offerings, and it's up to you guys whether you take those offerings and do something with them, or you entirely disagree, which is fine. As we go through the evening, please do feel free to interject and ask questions. The only thing I'd ask is put your hand up, just for orderliness. Not for hierarchy, not for a power-crazed kind of journey of my mind, but just so I can manage the time. So if you do have a question as we go, feel free to put your hand up, because I think it's important we engage as we go, rather than sort of curtailing questions to the end, and then you sort of forget where it came from and what the energy was behind your thought and yada yada. So I'm really keen for you guys to go on a journey with me as we think about this. What do I want to say? Well, first of all, who am I? Is there anyone in here who doesn't know who I am? Just because I won't say much if not. A couple of you. Yes. Do you really not know? If not, I'll... Okay, cool. So for this lady here, but you know, in the interest of pure inclusion, I'm the founder of Animas Centre for Coaching. I've been a coach for 18 years. I started as a classic performance coach, by which I mean I was focused on helping people achieve their goal. At some point during that journey, I segued into what you might call existential coaching, which is looking at how somebody is being human. What is their relationship to the givens of being human, the inescapable things of being human? And then I suppose later on, not suppose, definitely later on, I then got inspired to create my own coaching school in 2008. And that has led to Animas Centre for Coaching, which is now certainly one of the world's largest, not the world's largest, but certainly one of them, which is nice. And I guess it's led to a point where I can now think of a new journey of mastery. And I think, you know, one of the messages for me this evening is that mastery is not a destination, it's a journey, and that journey changes as you go. So I feel like I've achieved a certain degree of mastery, but I wouldn't say I'm a master. But now the energy is pulling me to a new place of mastery. And whether I get to that thing called being a master of X doesn't matter. It's the energy that's pulling me somewhere that feels important to me. I'm being true to that energy. So that's who I am. What prompted me to do this talk was, I suppose, a kind of frustration, but a frustration born of knowing what human beings are like. It's not that I'm frustrated by individuals or by the kind of people that join Animas, or the kind of people that become coaches, or the kind of people that enter the helping profession, or the kind of people who are born in the West, or the kind of people who are a certain gender, certain race, certain sexuality. It's not a kind of. I just think humans are frustrating. Anyone agree that humans are frustrating? Indeed, I think if humans weren't frustrating, we wouldn't need coaches. And so I was prompted to, after 10 years of running Animas, to say, like, what is the stuff that I've said, but maybe I want to say one last time in a new way that perhaps you may take on board. So that's the purpose of this talk. And if I could leave just some of you with a desire to shake up how you do coaching. I don't mean the day-to-day operations of coaching. I don't mean the hour you spend with your client. I mean how you do the life of being a coach. If I can get a few of you to shake that up, I'll be very happy. I don't expect 145 of you to take this on board, because that wouldn't be human. I would have had to do something extraordinary for 145 of you to soak this up and agree with me, and I'm okay with that. But a certain number may be impacted, and that's good for me. So the agenda, very brief, is why pursue mastery at all? You know, what's the point of mastery and success? And indeed, what is mastery? I want to take a look at what stops us achieving mastery and success. And to be honest, you know, it's kind of sad, but it's the truth, that of every 100 people that joins a coaching school, only 5 will make it. I'm guessing, by the way, this is a random number, but you get the energy behind it. About 5 will truly succeed as a coach. Another 20 will do pretty well as a coach. Another 30 will pursue coaching as a nice to have in their life, as something that they enjoy doing, that they make some money from, or they get some emotional payback from. And the other 50 will stop doing it. Now, I have no research to back that up, but you get my point. It's something like that. And I think that's a shame in a way, because I think coaching, I often describe coaching as the state of the art of answering the question, what is it to be human? And I really believe that. I don't say that lightly. I believe that the principles that underpin coaching of egalitarianism, of inquiry, of being human together, those things are fundamental to how we address the question, which is how am I being human, and what is it to be human that I can go along with my way? And I think that work is unbelievably powerful. So it always feels somewhat tragic that so many people fall by the wayside. And it's not because of the coaching school, it's not because of the industry, it's not because of the marketplace, it's not because of the world, it's because of the individual and the choices they make about what they do with their life. And that's okay. But I just feel wouldn't it be nice if we could get that to 51% of people who do something with it. So then I want to take a look at the myths that I think hold us back. In coaching in particular, no doubt in other professions like therapy and counseling and many other helping professions, but certainly in coaching, some of the myths that I feel have been bought into en masse. And if we can start to let go of those myths, we can be free to really think about what we want to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. And so the next thing I want to cover is what are the realities that when we start to understand them, they release us. They enable us to be ourselves as a coach or as a therapist or as a counselor, etc. I want to take a look at what works for coaching success. I haven't got case studies. I don't think that's very relevant to have specific case studies, but I've seen enough coaches who have done well to know what it takes at some operational level. What I mean by operational level is what do they do tactically and strategically, day after day after day after day, month after month, year after year, to be successful in the long run. You know, I think there's certain things that I can identify are always there, and I'd like to go through those. And finally, what are the qualities that I believe make up mastery and lead to success? So that's my agenda for the evening. The talk in a nutshell, I would say you could leave after this, but you can't, because it doesn't tell you anything. But the talk in a nutshell is that ultimately this is a mindset thing. It really is. I cannot overemphasize that. What I'm about to say, yes, you can say, so most coaches do X. Yeah, sure. But you would have figured that out for yourself if you had the right mindset. You know, most coaches do this. Yeah, you would have figured that out if you really took the time to learn. By the way, this isn't a critique of any of you. It's just the reality that if you're going to be successful, you could do this for yourself unless something's holding you back. So this is ultimately a mindset thing, not a strategy thing, not a tactics thing. So what you won't be getting from me this evening is, here are the 10 top ways to achieve mastery and success as a coach. You won't get that because I don't believe in them. In fact, funnily enough, I did actually think about doing like a kind of 4 pillars of mastery, or the seven Herculean tasks of mastery. And I thought, I don't believe in that. Like, I have never given enough time to begin to unpick and try to do a typology of mastery types. It's just not my style. So I'm not going to pretend that I've done some deep research on those 4 key pillars. There could be 10, there could be 2. I don't care. Find your own. This is a mindset thing. It's not a tactics thing. It's not a strategic thing. By the way, when I get on my high horse, I do apologize, but you've only got it for about an hour and a half. My wife gets it non-stop, so you're in a pretty good place. So first question for you guys to think about. What is mastery? I want you to take just a minute or two to have a chat with your neighbor. And what do you think mastery is? If you had to define mastery, how would you define it? Have a chat with your neighbor. Have a chat with your neighbor. Have a chat with your neighbor. And just go for what is mastery? So it's funny, I'm watching Nathan sit here. And last time I did a talk in front of Nathan, he said to me, "Nick, were you nervous?" And I was like, "I don't think so." He says, "Your shoulders were very high when you were talking tonight." So I'm very conscious of trying to loosen up now because he's very somatic as Nathan. And so I'm feeling very, like, I suddenly realized, oh my God, are my shoulders high, Nathan? Are they okay? Good. So who would like to share with me your idea of mastery? Yeah.
Constantly be a student and to learn from absolutely every opportunity.
Great.
Failure
Great. So constantly learn from everything and failure as feedback. Great. Any more? Yeah. Self-realization. Great, thank you. Dimension of wisdom. What do you mean by that? Nor did I, which is why I asked, so thank you. Okay, so there's something about wisdom that comes up for you in mastery. Great.
I think wisdom and confidence.
Wisdom and confidence. Great, thank you. Yeah.
You become a role model as well, because if you're able to get like the amount of knowledge you're able to present it, people look for you first time.
Great, thank you. So that was become a role model. Doing something over and over and over again. It's funny, I had a business mentor who I must say was very impactful on my business. And one of the things he said is most business owners they're not in business for 10 years, they're in business 1 year 10 times, which I thought was a really interesting observation. They're actually not achieving mastery, they're just repeating the same mistakes and the same habits over and over and over again and never really growing as a business owner. And it's really interesting, it's so true, I see that now. Not just practice it, but innovate. Thank you. I'm going to take a couple more, and then I'm going to give you something I came up with in Pizza Express a few doors away. Yeah. Doing it through the unconscious. So kind of like this lady said about this gentleman said about tacit knowledge. Great, thank you. And one more. Oh, cool. So here's what I came up with in Pizza Express. Who was the lady Angela? Where's Angela? So Angela, you saw me typing on my phone in there. This is what I was typing. I put, mastery for me is a deliberate and conscious journey to be the best version of yourself in a discipline. And this is the interesting bit I felt that made sense to me, was so you control it. It doesn't control you. Think about the word master. If you're the master, you're not the slave. You're not the apprentice. You're the master. So what does it mean to be a master? Well, if you think about it, I don't know what the etymological roots are, but there's going to be something about your ability to be in control of or in power or something. So I feel like for me to be a master is to be in control of it and not it be in control of me. And it's funny, I think when I was at the summit last year, there were quite a few questions about coaching versus my concept of transformational dialogue. And the thing that kept coming back to me was how most people want to be accepted in the role they've taken on called coach. Rather than thinking, who am I that I control the concept called coach that I use with my clients? They're being controlled by the industry norms called coach. And if you think about who are the great masters of art, let's go back to one of the early ones, Giotto. Do you think people didn't really see perspective before Giotto did his paintings with perspective? Do you think people actually saw the world as flat? No, they saw perspective. They just didn't think to put it on 2D canvas until Giotto decided to be the first artist to bring perspective into art. That's what made him a master, the ability to break the rules and move something forward and control the medium, not to be controlled by the medium. I think that's one of the key things I'd love to get you guys thinking about is what's making you be controlled by it rather than vice versa? And what's the journey you have to go on to become truly authentic as the practitioner you want to be? So, with that said, as an introduction, the next question, I'm not going to do a lot of these question bits, but I just want to get a bit of vibe first, is what journey of mastery are you on? And be really, really honest with yourself. It can be very easy to fool yourself. And I think, somebody said, I think what you said, self-realization? Self-realization? I think there's a huge amount of truth in that. Like once you start to be self-aware and realize what's real for you, you can actually choose the path you're really on rather than one you think you should be on. So again, take a moment, 1 minute, and just have a chat about that. What journey of mastery are you really on?
For me, it's about finding ways to put myself into my work.
Say a bit more about that as a journey of mastery.
Mastery. So I guess that's what drives me as a coach. I was just saying that a lot of the stuff I've done since becoming a coach has nothing to do with coaching. It's about finding ways to put parts of me into my work that are important to me, that help me to connect with people.
Very interesting. Yeah, great. Thank you. Who else? Yes, up back.
For me, it's my own personal journey to be the best version of myself for my coaching and for my clients. And I I think for me it's just an ongoing learning experience, and you know, I'll never really stop. I don't think I'll ever kind of get to the mastery of myself. But that's kind of where, on a coaching perspective, where I would see it.
Great, thank you, Anna. Yes.
We had it was an interesting image for me coming up, as in like mastery could be getting to the top of one tree, but it could also getting to know the foundation of the forest. So it's interesting where you put that end goal of the mastery.
What is it for you?
Well, it didn't get to me.
Okay. So you only had this thought in your head for the first time tonight, like, I never even thought about me being a master of anything. Like, nobody asked me.
But that's like the master, jack of all trades and master of none. We might just be on a different journey of mastery. There's still mastery there that can, like something that can be mastered, but not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any more? Yes.
For me, it's the journey of self-mastery. And I would define that, like, our life for me is that basically we have perceptions in every moment of our life. And our life is made of these perceptions. And I firmly believe that we create our perception in every moment, internal and external. And for me, mastery is being able to master your own perception of life in every moment.
Okay, great, thank you. And last one? Sure.
Well, for me, it's coming through workshops. I've created workshops from scratch, and every time I give a workshop, I learn, and I learn, and I hone, and I learn, and I learn how to tailor it. And so every time I'm looking for new ways to add value. So actually, it's very directional.
Perfect, thank you. So for me, I mean, when I look at my journey of mastery, when I started as a coach, it was to become a great coach. Sounds a bit blasé, but that was how it felt at the time. But then once I started the coaching school, the journey of mastery was I let coaching go. I mean, a lot of you felt it. A lot of you knew me through that transition phase of being a coach and then a trainer and then a business owner. And a lot of you were in that transition with me, and you saw me letting go and getting more and more people to come in and do the training until at some point, like, I don't train anymore. And then one day I was going on the tube to run another introduction to transformational coaching. And I went, my energy for this on a scale of 1 to 10 is 1. This is the last one I'm doing. And I walked into that room and said, hey guys, you're the very last group I'm ever going to do an introduction day for. Because I recognized the energy wasn't there. So now it became building this school that could create coaches like yourselves. But then the next journey for me, starting kind of nowish, is how do I start to build multiple companies that operate within that same field of transformational work and not have to do any of the operational work at all. So it's mainly my vision, my thinking and my collaboration with partners. Now, that might fail abysmally, and I'm okay with that. But that's the journey that's calling me now. And I think one of the things about mastery is recognizing what's really calling you versus what you're currently stuck with. In other words, you might have started to train as a coach, but halfway along you realize that actually coaching is not for me, therapy is, or coaching is not for me, running a business is, or wow, I really love doing this social media stuff. Or actually, there's a guy, Patrick, I don't know if he's here tonight, but Patrick, having become so near to starting his own coaching business, suddenly thought, I don't want a business, I want to be an internal coach. And he managed to get a job as an internal coach. You know, it's like recognizing the truth of what the energy is inside you is calling from you, I think is a part of mastery. It isn't just mastering something because it's there to do. That is one way to live, I agree, and it can work. I'm just not sure it's the right one if you can tune into something that's more real for you. If you're kind of like from a Gestalt perspective, desensitized to what's real for you, then great, go for something rather than nothing. But if you have some sensation that something's not quite right, tune into it and start asking yourself, what's being called from me that I can really master here? That's going to be a much more genuine and authentic journey than just going, well, I'm a coach, I better master coaching. So that's my first thing for you guys, is as you leave here to really think for yourself, what's the journey I want to be on, that I'm being called to be on? When I say called to be on, you guys will know that I'm an atheist, I'm very existential. I'm not saying there's some spiritual thing up there that's calling me, but I'm feeling in here an urge to do something different with my life. I don't need to rationalize that, but I can tune into it. So then the next thing that comes up to my mind is, what stops so many people going on this journey? So I thought about 3 things that we have to admit aren't in our control. And if this is the case, then fine. And let's focus briefly on coaching. The 3 reasons out of your control. I can't think of any more. If you can, great. I'm not pretending this is like I'm not pretending I've spent years thinking about this, but these are the three that really came to mind. Number one, you have persistent, relentless, never-ending bad luck. Now, I don't know if you've seen a film called Drag Me to Hell. Have you ever seen that film called Drag Me to Hell, where this lovely bank clerk gets cursed by a gypsy woman who gives her a button, and this button basically means she's going to get dragged to hell. Well, we call this a curse. If you have a curse, I suggest you go and see a medium, or, I don't know who you need to see to remove a curse, but you've got a curse if you have persistent, relentless bad luck. Bad luck happens. Things can happen that affect your business, affect your coaching practice, affect you, affect your life, etc. But not every day, day in, day out, 80 years of your life. If that's happening, you're either cursed or you're just going to all the wrong places. Number two, you lack the fundamental qualities to be a coach, and you'll never gain them. Like you're unfriendly, you can't listen, you have zero empathy, etc. You get my point. In that case, give up now. This is not the journey to be on a mastery of. Number three, time. If you have any days or months to live, you are not going to get to mastery as a coach in that time, because mastery takes time. There are fundamentally only a few things that can really stop us achieving mastery, or at least pursuing mastery. The qualities that are in our DNA, the time we have to achieve it, and a curse. If you haven't got one, so long as you haven't got any of those three, you should be good. Can we all agree on that? Fundamentally, you should be good. No, so what are the three things that are in our control? You're not putting the work in. You think you are, but you're not. And I'm not saying you aren't, but broadly speaking, we can say most people don't achieve mastery because they don't put the work in. Number two, you are putting the work in, but it's the wrong kind of work. You're fiddling around on Facebook pages, wondering where your next client's going to come from when you posted that, that everything happens for a reason, and you did a really nice kind of plant, flower next to it. And you're thinking, why did that not get me a client? You did the work, it was the wrong kind of work. The last one is you're putting the right kind of work in, but you give up too soon. That's it. That's all that can stop you. You're either not doing the work, you're doing the wrong kind of work, or you're giving up too soon. You're not going long enough with the work. That's basically it. Anything else will be stuff that will get you somewhere. Let me just grab some water, guys, sorry. Okay, so let me share some of the myths that hold you back, I believe, as in the coaching profession. The great myths. Number one, qualification makes you a coach. The minute you get your certificate with Animas or another coaching school, you're a coach. Yeah, kind of. But how many hours do you have to do to qualify as a coach with Animas? 40. How many hours do you have to do to get your first accreditation level with the ICF? 100. How many hours did you have to do in your job to be good at it? 40? Probably a lot more than 40. And yet somehow we think that because we've reached the ripe old age of more than 18, that we have the right, that a certificate turns us into something. It doesn't. It's the start of your journey. So number one, the myth is that when we qualify, we're a coach. Number two, that training is rightfully followed by paying clients. Somehow there's this kind of equation that happens in people's heads that when I qualify, I deserve paying clients. Somehow I am morally enabled to have paying clients. Number three, if it doesn't happen quickly, it's not going to happen at all. And number four, I've done everything. I literally saw this. And by the way, I don't say this in a disparaging way, but I saw this literal, almost quote in our community group. I've done everything. I built a website. I've done my social media. I go networking. Why is it not happening yet? What would you say the answer to that is? Time. That's it. And yet somehow we think that if we build our website, and if we do some social media, and if we go networking, and if we get a business card, and yada, 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 that's going to get us a result. It's not. It's the start. So we have to break these myths. We have to break the myths that, first of all, qualification doesn't make you the finished deal. It's the beginning of your journey. I can think of myself and Rob. Rob and I trained at the same coaching school many, many years ago. We learned the most basic coaching models. I mean, Grow model was all we learned, smart goal setting, all that kind of stuff. I mean, when did I do my master's? 2012. So 12 years later, I did a master's in psychological coaching. If I look back now, my first coaching course, and I think, oh my God, like that, I wasn't a coach, but it was my entry point. It was okay, it's what I needed to do to get started, but I wasn't a coach at that point. I was technically, but did I have the real confidence in my bones to be able to go out and market myself as a coach with real integrity? Not at that point. There's a journey to be had. The training is rightfully followed by paying clients. That if it doesn't happen quickly, it's not going to happen at all. And that you've done everything, why is it not happening? We need to break those myths. Let's look at the reality. The reality is, training and qualification are the mere start of your time as a coach. The mere start. Who, by show of hands, who really wants to be a coach or a related professional for most of the rest of their life? Okay. Who thinks they've got, keep your hands up. Now put your hands down if you think you've got less than 20 years left to live. So guys, you've got a long time to make this work. It's true, you've got a long time to make this work. Look, mortality, like, I know when we talk about death, it feels like it's either going to be humorous or whatever, but it's actually a reality. Once we start to tune into the fact we are going to die, and that we have a certain amount of years left to do stuff with, we can start to realize that mastery is not something we need tomorrow. It's a journey to go on. So training is not the start. Number two, training is followed by gaining experience, not by paying clients, often for free. Who here, after they qualified, carried on doing what you might call free or practice coaching, so to speak? Great. You guys are much more likely to succeed than somebody who stops coaching because they're not being paid for it. Because you're building up the muscle of coaching. You're gaining confidence. Number three, it doesn't happen quickly. It just doesn't. There's almost no coaches in the world that would go, oh yeah, it happened really quickly for me. Like even somebody like Michael Sowa started at 25. He became successful really at about 28, 29. Now we know, for any of you who knows Michael Sowa, he's one of the most highly paid coaches in the country. But it took him about 3 or 4 years before he had a really substantial income, and the last 2 years has rocketed him. In other words, he had to put that groundwork in to get where he wanted to be. The last one, training, qualification, website, social media, yada, yada, yada. They're the ticket to the party. They're not the actual party. When we start to realize that you've only just qualified to get into the party when you've got your certificate and when you've got your website and when you've got your Facebook page and when you've got your business card, that's your ticket to go, can I come in, please? You don't expect all of that party to rush out and greet you and go, hey, what are you doing on the street? Come in, we'd love you to join our party. They don't do that, do they? You have to knock on the door and you have to hopefully be invited in. That's the reality. It's like, I get that this might be uncomfortable to go, but it shouldn't be that hard. Sorry, it is. The question for you then is, what do I want to do about it? What is my responsibility? What is my power? What is my choice within this that means I confront the reality that this is a hard profession? And by the way, there's not a single business in the world that's easy. Well, not quite true, but most people don't want to be employees. I have met some people who actually do want to be employees, and because for whatever reason, but most people don't. If they could choose not to get their holidays sanctioned by the boss, if they could choose the hours they work, they would. So business is never easy. There's no such thing as an easy business. Otherwise, somebody else would be doing it very, very quickly. So the truth is, we have to put a lot of work in to go to mastery in coaching and anything else. Let me just stop for a second and get any thoughts, reflections, feedback, or questions at this stage. Right at the back.
At the beginning, you said the master controls the medium, and is not controlled by the medium, and then you asked the question why we would feel controlled by it. Some people feel like the message they have to convey is different. Like the authentic message is different from what the market wants.
Yes.
So in those situations, when you're outside of the medium, how do you reconcile both?
You're not fully outside the medium, otherwise you won't be a master of it at all. Like if I was Giotto and I was going to change the face of painting by bringing in a perspective, what I'm not doing is sailing a yacht and saying, hey, I'm a really great painter. No, you're not. You're sailing a yacht. You've got to be operating within some concept called painting or some concept called coaching. The question is, how much are we regulated by that concept versus how much we're prepared to shove the edges of it? True mastery is the ability to shove the edges of it so that those edges become the norm. Then the next generation of masters will push them a bit further. If you think about psychoanalysis, it started with Freud and Jung, but it wasn't too long before lots of other people were shifting it. That's what I mean by that. It's like you're not just going like, hey, I'm totally not part of your world. Well, great, create a new world. But if you're part of that world, you shift it, you push it, you're not constrained by it. Make sense?
Yes, but what if it's a world that so for example, if I don't really like using social media for my coaching, but then I see that is the best way to reach a lot of people and get clients, but I don't want to do it because it's not authentic to me.
Right.
How do I combine that medium with my authentic?
That's a great question, and it's about facing reality. There's a lot of coaches don't like marketing full stop, let alone social media. In their ideal world, they would stretch the boundaries by sitting in their room meditating and clients would come to them. It ain't going to happen. So there are certain realities we have to face in any profession and anything we do in life. Whether you want to run, whether you want to coach, whether you want to fly to the moon, whatever it is, there are certain things you've got to do. Reaching clients is one of them. If social media really is the future of all marketing, tough, you got to do it. Like that's another part of mastery is accepting what's unchangeable, accepting just what is, without kind of going, oh, but I don't like it. Tough, that just is. Now, if you can find a way to do it without, which isn't social media marketing, and that feels good and it works, your quid's in. It's great. But you have to face what is. Any more thoughts, questions? Yeah. Hi.
It was back again to the definition of mastery, and I wasn't sure if I caught everything. This idea of being in control of it. Because, like, I guess, and it maybe because I didn't understand it, but I feel like if you try and control it, and you try and control anything in the coaching kind of conversation, that's when things go awry.
Well, that's interesting. I think we can get wrapped up in semantics for sure. And this came up over a pizza about half an hour before the talk. So probably control is not the right word. I quite like the sound of it. You're in control of it. It's not in control of you, but you're dead right. You can play with the language. My point is, you have to start showing up authentically in that profession rather than the profession curtailing you.
So it's more like this definition of coaching, not curtailing you.
Yes. Yeah. Because somebody said to me recently about coaching, I forgot what they actually said to me. My answer to them was, somebody made coaching up once. It's not like somebody was digging in the soil and they found this thing called coaching, this unchangeable thing called coaching that's solid like a chemical. You don't find coaching on the periodic table. It's not like the CO of periodic table. It's not an element. It's a made-up thing. So who's to stop you being the next person to make up a thing? Are you less important than the person that made up coaching, John Whitmore or Alexander Armstrong? Like, are you less important than that person? And if so, why? Tell me why. I'd love to know. Because I think you're here for roughly the same length of time as that human being. You have the same rough life experience as that human being. You've probably got roughly the same brain as that human being. Why would you not make up your own thing? Unless you want the ability to be accepted by a profession that already exists because it's safer and easier. Great. At least accept that's what you're doing. Don't pretend that you don't have a choice. You're making a choice to be part of a profession that exists because it's easier than creating your own. Fine. At least know that's what you're doing. Make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm
That's right. No, of course. Yeah, it was a pizza quote. Yeah.
Are you saying we have to be creative, basically, and create our own style? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying you should do anything. I'm saying that one way to master, in my view, is to be authentic to yourself and not be constrained by the profession you're in. But at the same time, if you're going to be part of a profession, are you going to master it? You need to at least be identifiable as being it. Hence, painter versus yachtsman is so entirely different. but you can be a painter that brings in perspective rather than one that's 2D. That's a choice that everybody can make. Yeah.
No, so you're saying it's okay to innovate?
You don't even need me to answer that. Yeah. The other thing I'd say is, by the way, Giotto started painting 2D. You know, and so this is the other thing. What I'm not saying is, hey guys, come to Animas and then entirely ignore what we teach you from day one. Picasso didn't do cubism until he'd mastered the art of drawing. Mastery is mastering what is and then changing it. Not just going like, I don't care what anyone does, I'm just going to... Well, by the way, you could do your own thing, but you'd then create your own category. It would be called whatever you want to call it. But if you're going to master coaching, you've got to at least get coaching under the skin first before you then start to change it. Which is why we always say, look, yeah, I know I stand at the front and I say, oh, yada, 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 transformational dialogue, but ignore me while you're in training, because you've got to get the basics right. Guys, so let's move forward a little bit. Qualities of mastery. Okay, this actually takes a sort of segue from what we've just been talking about, which is I feel like true mastery is finding your authentic behaviors and your authentic self in the work you do versus rule following and role playing. Now, there's a coach in this room who I won't name, but I've always felt guilty that I forgot to reply to her. I should know who she is, who wrote to me saying that she thanked me for allowing her to break the rules. And like a lot of things in my life, things come into my inbox and they drift and etc. So without looking at her, I now deeply apologize for that. But it's true. I think when you start to actually break the rules, not for the sake of breaking rules, but to find out who you are as a practitioner, then that's the first principle or the first quality of mastery, is really be authentic. How can you be authentic if you're following constrained rules that you don't even agree with? I never forget, some of you might have heard this before, but I never forget somebody saying to me, Nick, I had this client and I really knew what the client should do. And I said, okay, so why didn't you tell her? And she said to me, because that's everything that Animas says we shouldn't do. And I said, that's the wrong reason not to do it. Like, if you don't have the unknowing gene as part of your makeup, then don't pretend to be unknowing, because then you're just role-playing at unknowing. If you really understand and believe that you don't know anything, then it's in your bones. But if you're faking it, you're faking it. That's not real. So start to tune into what's real for you. And if you feel like there's advice you want to give, and by the way, this isn't a few trainees, etc., etc. Caveat. Submit the recording, but Nick said, no. This is for your post-Animas life. You know, you have to find out a way that your advice becomes congruent to the contract you make, to what is the emotion that's making you want to give advice in the first place. Is it a congruent emotion? Is it a compulsion? Like, you need to get in tune with yourself, but then once you know what's really going on, you can start to be that person. Don't just fake it. So next up is realistic patience. I just find it unbelievable how many people think you qualify as a coach and you're immediately going to have a business. It's just crazy to me. And then they get frustrated. It's like, you came into coaching because you wanted to do something that really mattered to you, and yet you're going to give up 6 months later because you didn't get some paying clients. Did you ever really want it? Like, did you really want it that you're prepared to give up so soon because it doesn't seem to be working? That does my head in, it really does. And yes, that's judgmental. So I would love to see more realistic patience, by which I mean patience predicated upon not like victimhood. Patience predicated upon, oh, when it happens, it happens. No, patience predicated upon what does it actually take to make something work, and how long does that take? And that means looking at other coaches, it means looking at other markets, it means looking at how business works, it means all that stuff. It means becoming realistic about what it takes to work, rather than hopeful. Somebody even this evening said to me, I hope to ... Don't hope, make a plan. It's just, you know, this is hope is predicated upon disempowerment. Realistic planning is going, what do I actually need to do, and then get patient about it. Versus naive optimism, which is what a lot of people have. They just assume that they're going to get clients. They say to me things like, but Nick, is the coaching market saturated? Well, go and ask 10 of your friends who's got a coach. And unless those 10 friends are hanging around in your coaching circles, I suspect 9 or 10 of them won't have a coach. So is it saturated? Or a coach is just doing a really, really bad job of getting in front of clients? So you've got to look after yourself. And that means not being optimistic naively. It means getting realistic about what it takes. Persistent application. I was watching Breaking Bad for the second time this week, and there's a little bit where what's his name? Jesse. He finds the school report from Walter White, who's, of course, any of you know Breaking Bad. He's the partner in methamphetamine creation, and on the back of it says, "Ridiculous! Apply yourself." And I just think we as practitioners need to become much better at applying ourselves on a regular, routine, rhythmic basis. You can't say, "Oh, but I went networking once this month and it didn't work." Yeah? Tell me something that's not going to surprise me. You need to get good at networking. That takes practice. You need to go networking over and over and over again. Or you need to do AdWords management over and over again. Or you need to do something over and over and over again. It's called application. Versus sporadic energy, which is on a Monday you wake up feeling great about your coaching practice, but then on a Tuesday, that client you thought you had in the bag cancels and you feel bereft and you decide that it's not working this week. Like when we have sporadic energy, we're never going to move towards mastery. We just move towards pops of energy, followed by depressions of inactivity. I just don't think that's the way to go. So you need to start to really apply yourself. What works? You need to figure out what works for you, and then do it over and over and over again. Next up, learning and growth. I came in and I saw somebody reading Cognitive Behavioral Coaching for Dummies. Who's that? I saw that. Yeah, well done. So it's interesting. Years ago, I remember saying to somebody, people in a group of coaches, "What are you reading at the moment?" And I was like, what was that one about the kite runner? 1,000 Starry Nights. And all these kind of beautiful sounding fiction books that were written, in Booker Prize style books. Great, you're reading nice fiction. It's good literature. It's not just Dan Brown. But where's your learning coming from? I was actually quite amazed by how few coaches really expand their learning. And I would say one of the things you guys need to do if you're really going to head towards mastery is learn. Keep reading, keep watching. Just do whatever it takes. The course is not the end. The course is the beginning. Whether that's with us or another school, the course is the beginning. You're on a constant journey of learning. Versus repetition and stagnation. How many coaches, I'm actually amazed actually, how many coaches from the era that Rob and I trained, which was for me early 2000s, how many of those coaches I met recently still only use the GROW model? Because that's what they were taught at the start of the coaching journey. That's amazing to me. You've got to continually expand your ability in your mind as a coach. Otherwise you're stagnating. Your work's stagnating, your emotions are stagnating. Here's an interesting one. I think to go on your journey of mastery, you need to start to go into stretch risk or stretching risk. Risk that stretches you. Versus stagnant competence. I was thinking about, like Nathan at the front here, he and I are setting up a school called the Somatic School. I'm the investor, I'm the mentor. Nathan is the guy that's got the passion for somatic work. I haven't got a clue about somatic work. Nathan's the guy with the passion for somatic work. I'm the guy that can invest in the business and help him as a business mentor. It might go totally wrong. Nathan might be useless. I know he looks super smart tonight, but he might be useless. In which case, all that stuff that I put in, the time, the money, is gone. That's fine. It's a risk I'm prepared to take because my next journey of mastery is multiple brands operating within the transformational space. How do I get there if I'm not prepared to take a stretch risk? What I'm not going to do is take all the money that I've got in Animas to keep the company secure for you guys and go, you know what, Nath? Let's put it all on red. Or let's put it all on blue. That's not a stretch risk, that's a crazy risk. It's about knowing what's the risk you're prepared to take to grow and stretch in your journey of mastery versus feeling good that you can do something well, but never really growing that ability, what I would call stagnant competence. There's plenty of stagnantly competent people in the world, at all walks of life. Here's a nice one, experience and battled hardened confidence versus qualificationism and fake it till you make itism. This is why I say when you qualify as a coach, your next step is experience, not paying clients. Nothing will trump the DNA of coaching or whatever you do becoming part of you, such that you develop a confidence that you can make a difference, that when you say that to somebody, they believe you. Versus, I've got a certificate, so therefore I should be able to make a change in this person. And that ekes out of you. That should be able to work, comes out of you. It's like an ooze of poison that says, yeah, I think I'll try another coach, thanks. Because what you're doing is, I've done my 40 hours, I've got my certificate, yeah, I should be able to do this. That has to be so deeply ingrained. If you can find one thing that you can say with absolute confidence you can do, that becomes your bedrock. That might be that you'll listen to that client like nobody's ever listened to them before. If you can do that, that becomes the bedrock of your confidence for the journey of mastery. If you're really good at making sense of stuff, and you can take in a lot of information and really offer it back in hypothetical ways or hypotheses of what might be going on, that becomes a bedrock. But you've got to find a thing that becomes super, super confident for you. If all you do is go, well, I've got this collation of skills, and I've got the certificate, now it's time to try it out, you're going to flounder because your bones aren't settled on your confidence yet. Does that make sense? Next up, quality of mastery, all of you versus parts of you. By which I mean, a lot of the time I notice people come into coaching and they think they're becoming a coach. It kind of makes sense when you first think about it, but it doesn't really. Because they're so much more than a coach. Every single one of you has had a different history. Every single one of you, obviously. Every single one of you have learned different skills in different places, in different ways, with different people. And each of the skills get configured around you to be a absolutely unique practitioner. And the idea that you call that one thing a part, called the Animas way of coaching or the whatever way of coaching, is such a crazy concept. Why not find a way to get all of you involved in what you do? That's what's going to lead you to true mastery, not just replicating what Animas taught you or somebody else taught you. Unless you hate everything that you were before this point, in which case probably coaching is not the journey you should be on. So you've got to find a way to bring everything that makes you you into who you are as a coach, and that becomes your journey of mastery, not just Animas style coaching. I think this is the last one of qualities. I wasn't sure about this word, professionalism. I don't like the word, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Ever-present professionalism versus Fairweather rewardism. Somebody once said I make up words all the time, and I didn't used to, but I started to do just for this talk. So what I mean by that is, because actually I remember her working with a coach some years ago, and she was a massive advocate of Rich Litvin's Prosperous Coach. And yet, if she was having an off day, a client had cancelled, she thought she was going to get somebody but didn't get them, she would just go, brrr, and she'd be totally down. And I remember opening up this book randomly. I said to her, let's look at what Rich Litvin says. And it opened up on this page where he says, a successful coach, I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's along the lines of a successful coach has a system of behaviors they do every day. An unsuccessful coach measures themselves based on the emotions of their current day's success or not. So today I lost a client, Today I gained a client, woohoo! That's rubbish. That reminds me of Rudyard Kipling's If quote, poem. If we can yada yada triumph and whatever the thing is. If you can remember Rudyard Kipling's poem, then all will be well. So, I think if we can figure out a way to be consistent in our behavior such that we know that given enough time, doing those things will give us the result we want, then we have a real shot at mastery. But if every day we are looking at what's the reward that we're getting that day that's either going to make us happy or make us sad, then we're going to be stuck in very short-term behaviors. Yeah, that's I'm going to talk about in a second the common factors in a successful coach. But I just want to stop for a second on those qualities. Just get your thoughts, feedback, reflections, questions. Yes?
Yes. So just the question is on the experience. You said it's always good to have non-paying clients because then you build experience. Just something I've noticed is sometimes when you have non-paying clients, they're less committed, and the paying ones tend to show up more. And you actually, as a coach, have more energy, you're more, I don't know how to say, yeah, you're more focused.
No. I honestly didn't. It's really interesting. I hear that a lot. Now, you know the old saying about an old man at the top of a hill, and somebody walks up to him, and he's at the gate of a new town. And this guy says, "What are the people like in your town?" Do you know this story? Okay, so there's no guy. He's at the gates of a town in ancient Greece, in particular Thessalonica. And this other person comes up from a different village, and he says, "What are the people like in this town of yours?" And he says, "Well, what were they like where you came from?" "Ah, they were miserable. They were always moaning. You'll find them mostly the same here." Then another guy comes up. He says, "What are the people like here? I'm interested to move here." He says, "What were the people like back where you came from?" He said, "Oh, they're really nice, always trying to help you. Yeah. Great, you'll find them the same here." Now, that's my experience of this issue of is a free person committed or not? I've never found any difference. I wonder what we bring to that because they're free. And by the way, this isn't an accusation to you. I mean, I get that we might equally experience it differently, but my thing is, what are we bringing unconsciously because this person's free? And we feel less invigorated by them. We feel less committed to by them. My experience of people paying is absolutely irrelevant to their commitment. It really is. In fact, one of the things I've noticed is, particularly if you take payment up front, the motivation cycle for a payment up front goes something like this, from your perspective, nice and high when they first part with the money, and then week on week, because the further they get away from that cash leaving the bank account, the more it's forgotten it is. The only time that makes a difference is when you're taking payment weekly or monthly or whatever the thing is. But then you've also got the risk of them going, "Oh, I'm going to cancel now." So my experience is it makes no difference. It's a relational thing and it makes no difference. Any more thoughts, questions? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm interested in to what extent do you think these are messages for Animas and for coaches, or to what extent do you feel like these are messages for our times in general? Kind of question around patience, sort of endurance, no quick instant.
I think it's the question for, I don't know is the answer. I think it's probably the question for humanity rather than a socio-historical time. I doubt that we are any less patient now. I mean, I might be entirely wrong. One of the things that freaks me out sometimes is you read a history book. I remember reading Nathaniel's Nutmeg. Any of you read Nathaniel's Nutmeg? Oh, such a great book. It's really beautiful, by Giles Milton. And it's about this, it was a really amazing book by this English guy that defended the Molucca Islands from the Dutch. And it led to New Amsterdam being exchanged for the Molucca Islands, where they grew nutmeg, which then and New Amsterdam became New York. And it's a stunning book. But it talked about these people who sail off from England or Holland, and they'd kind of get imprisoned for 15 years. And they'd come out of that prison, and they'd go straight back onto a sailing boat and do it all over again. So maybe people have changed. I just didn't live back then, so I don't know. I'm never a big believer in the idea that somehow we are unique at this point in time. I kind of think human beings are always roughly the same. So my answer's rubbish. I don't have one, really. Any other? Yes, hi.
I love what you said about finding that thing you can do confidently at the beginning and building from that.
Yeah.
Because I found that after I qualified, I think my first 3 clients I had from the life coach directly, I had a consultation with them, and they didn't convert. And I knew straight after the consultation is that, I was coming from that place. My writing on the life coach director was great, it engaged them, but when they met me, they were not getting the confidence serious because I didn't have that confidence in myself as a coach. So I had to, post-qualification, mentoring was my thing. Yeah. I did a lot of mentoring, and I still do free coaching, and I don't find any problem with that.
What was the thing that you really felt confident in?
I didn't to begin with. I didn't feel confident at all. So for me, I had to keep, I said putting myself into my work. It was just finding out that thing through experience. Yeah.
And did you find it? Okay. Yeah, great. Well, find one thing. Like literally find one thing that you can grow from.
I'm okay with coaching.
Yes. But you'd be surprised if you can find the one thing you can state with absolute, unshakable authority and certainty about yourself. Not about what coaching is, not what the profession does, about you. Your ability to be that person for that person. If you can find out one thing, whether it's listening, whether it's questioning, whether it's reflecting, whether it's noticing, whether it's whatever it is, if you can find out one thing you're unbelievably good at, that becomes the bedrock for the rest of your growth. So it's a starting point. Yeah, thanks, Olivia. Yes?
I'm just not sure about what does it mean that that becomes the bedrock. So you know that thing you're good at. How does that become your starting point instead of the thing you kind of cling on to and repeat?
Yeah, because people will buy into you on that thing. And then when they buy into you on that thing, you start doing the other things, because the other things are also part of what you do. And then you get to practice it and practice it and practice it, so you go, oh my God, I'm really good at that too.
So that's like your selling point.
Sort of. I wouldn't call it a selling point in as much, but I get your point. It's the thing that's going to exude confidence and truth. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's talk about some common factors in success, and I'm going to do some Q&A as well. So this is what I see in coaches who succeed to some degree. Number one, they complete their training. Seriously. I mean, you'd be amazed how many people join a course, not just Animas, but many, 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 many around the world in every kind of discipline there is, and never complete it. So number one, they complete the course. That's a really good sign, by the way. You know, when we see somebody complete the course relatively quickly, we have a good feel that person's going to start to do stuff. Not always. We've also seen people who take a long time, so it's not like a categorical judgment or reality, but there's a definite correlation. Osman Sabir, any of you know Osman? Osman came through Animas with a real rock-solid determination to start a coaching practice, and from day one, he treated his practice clients as paid clients, in as much as the way he did the contracting. He knew what he was going to do, and he qualified quickly. He got his first paying clients quickly. He grew his fee quickly. You see it very, very quickly based on how somebody completes their course. Number two, they practice relentlessly. I never forget Sonia Gill, who went on to build Heads Up, working with head teachers around the UK. I never forget her creating multiple peer groups where she could keep practicing coaching and reflecting on coaching and getting clients wherever she could find them and just coaching, and then reflecting with her peer groups. They get supervised. I'm not going to ask you for a show of hands who is supervised here, but I honestly recommend it. You know, I really do. There's two great benefits from supervision. Number one, there's the supervision on your work. But number two, you start to role model somebody who's been there and done it. For them to become a supervisor, they've had to go where you've already gone, where you want to go. So there's something about connecting to supervisors who have already walked your journey to some degree. I highly recommend it. I mean, I've taught supervision. There are so many extra models that influence how we can look at your coaching that you can't even begin to dream of. It's very powerful. So I think, you know, if you start to get supervised, it's a good sign for where you go next. Next up, you focus on experience over charging money. I've said this 3 times now, but I'm going to say it this 3rd time. I've seen it over and over again. Their first port of call is experience. Michael Serwer, who now charges ludicrous amounts of money, when he first started, he was charging £20 an hour for his coaching. Now he's charging whatever, I've no idea, 20,000 for his contracts. I mean, it's crazy. But he started building his experience. You know the Malcolm Gladwell concept of 10,000 hours? I don't think it's true per se, particularly in some of the human relational things that we need to do 10,000 hours. But I think that experience certainly trumps just getting paid clients, that's for sure. Next up is they join their peers in supporting one another, whether that's peer groups, whether it's coaching circles, whether it's paid coaching circles. They do things to stay connected. They focus on their strengths more than their weaknesses. And you mentioned, Olivia, that you focused on mentoring. You know, if you've got a mentoring muscle, make that part of your practice. And it's not contrary to coaching. The thing about coaching and mentoring is they complement each other very well if the contract is right. So when I'm coaching, I'm drawing out something that I cannot know in advance. When I'm mentoring, I'm putting in what I know because I've been there, done it, and they need to know it.